neuroscientist, Dr. Tara Swain-Bieber.
You know what's really interesting about her?
What's that?
Well, Dr. Swain-Bieber, she's like this leading neuroscientist,
Yeah,
a psychiatrist and a senior lecturer at MIT Sloan, so she's got the credentials.
Yeah.
But she started out being kind of skeptical about all this manifestation stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But her research totally changed her view. It actually proved to her, like scientifically, the power of the mind to actually shape reality.
That's so cool. Okay, so by the end of this deep dive, our brains are literally gonna be different.
Absolutely. It all comes down to neuroplasticity, which basically means your brain is like constantly being shaped by your experiences. Even listening to us right now is rewiring your brain in little tiny ways. So is it like our brain is, I don't know, like a lump of clay? And every experience leaves a mark.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The more you do something or even think something, the stronger those neural pathways become, like building a mental muscle, you know?
Okay, so what are we going to learn today?
We're going to delve into the real science behind manifestation. We're going to learn how to tap into that gut feeling, intuition, you know, because there's actually a scientific explanation for that. And we'll even explore the surprising connection between stress and, believe it or not, belly fat.
What? Sign me up.
Oh.
Okay, so let's start with this neuroplasticity thing, this brain superpower we've got. Tell me more.
Okay, so neuroplasticity is basically your brain's ability to change and adapt throughout life. It's not like you're just stuck with the brain you're born with. It's constantly evolving.
So how does that actually work? How does it rewire itself?
Well, Dr. Swain-Bieber breaks it down into 3 key mechanisms. The first one is myelination. Imagine you have like a dirt road. And every time you drive on it, it gets smoother and faster, right? Yeah. That's what myelination does to neural pathways. Makes them more efficient.
So the more you practice something, the easier it becomes because those pathways are like superhighways in your brain.
Exactly. Then there's synaptic connection. This is all about forming new connections between neurons, like adding new roads to your brain's map. It's how we learn new things, new languages, new skills, everything.
So the more you learn and experience, the more intricate that road system in your brain becomes.
That's it. And the third mechanism is neurogenesis. Get this, your brain can actually grow new brain cells, even as an adult.
Oh, that's crazy. So our brains are constantly building new roads, any new cities. I'm guessing this means we can learn and change at any age then.
Absolutely. And Dr. Swain-Bieber says that this incredible ability is fueled by what she calls magnetic desire. So the more you want something, the easier it is for your brain to change and make it happen.
Okay, so that brings us to the big question. Manifestation. A lot of people are skeptical about it. Is it just magical thinking? Or is there real science behind it?
You know, it's not magic, it's science. Dr. Swain-Bieber, she lays out a 4-step process that's backed by neuroscience. The first step is what she calls raise your awareness. You need to be crystal clear about what you truly want. She even has this cool exercise for it.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's called the head-heart-gut check. So first you put your hands on your head and you ask yourself logically, is this really what I want and why? Then you move your hands to your heart and ask yourself emotionally, why do I desire this? And finally, you place your hands on your belly and check in with your gut. Does it feel right? Does it resonate deep down?
So you're literally checking in with your head, your heart, and your gut to see if it's truly aligned. That's brilliant.
Right. And if all 3 are in sync, you're on the right track. But if there's any hesitation at all, that's a sign to maybe do some soul searching and figure out what you truly want.
Okay, that makes sense. So what happens once you've figured out what you really want?
Well, then that's where the second step comes in. It's called focus your attention. And this isn't about jumping into action right away. It's more about observation, like conducting research on yourself.
Okay, what kind of research are we talking about?
So basically, you want to spend at least a month noticing patterns, behaviors, and feedback related to your goal. What actions are you already taking or not taking? What feedback are you getting from others? Are there any recurring patterns that are helping or hindering your progress?
So it's like gathering data before making any big moves.
Exactly. Once you've gathered enough data, it's time for step 3, deliberate practice. This is where you start taking consistent action toward your goal. It's an experimental phase, so mistakes are expected.
It's not about perfection. It's about progress. And if things don't go as planned, you adjust your approach based on that data you're gathering.
You got it. And the final step is accountability. This is crucial for staying on track and not giving up. You can find a coach, a supportive friend, or even a journaling app to keep yourself motivated.
So find what works for you. Now, I know some people are probably thinking, manifestation won't work for me. I've tried it before and nothing happened. But Dr. Swart-Bieber has this really inspiring story that I think speaks to those doubts. She talks about Chanel Haynes, who manifested her dream of playing Tina Turner on London's West End.
Yeah, and Chanel came from a really challenging background, but her story really shows that persistence and belief in oneself can overcome even the toughest obstacles.
It's amazing how powerful our minds can be when we tap into that belief. And this ties in perfectly with another cool concept Dr. Swart-Bieber talks about: action boards. They're like vision boards, but with a twist.
Yeah, so she basically takes the idea of vision boards to the next level. Instead of just passively looking at images, action boards encourage you to visualize your goals while taking concrete steps towards achieving them.
It's about aligning your vision with action. So how do you actually create an action board? What's her secret sauce?
Well, she suggests choosing images that resonate deeply with you and feel realistically attainable. Don't just put anything on there, be selective. And here's the really interesting part: don't glue anything down until you truly believe you deserve it.
Whoa, that's deep.
Oh.
So if you're hesitating to glue something down, it might be a sign of a limiting belief, like feeling unworthy or something.
Exactly. Acknowledging and addressing those limiting beliefs is a crucial part of rewiring for abundance. It's about getting your mind and your heart on the same page.
That's powerful. Okay, so once you've curated your action board,
Great.
what's next?
Then you want to visualize those images coming true. Really engage all your senses. What do you see? What do you hear, smell, taste, and feel as you achieve your goal? The more vivid you can make it, the better.
So you're basically tricking your brain into believing it's already happening.
Exactly. When you engage all your senses, your brain starts to blur the lines between imagination and reality, which makes you way more likely to take action. Oh, and Dr. Swart-Bieber has another amazing tip. Cultivate gratitude for the feelings that arise during that visualization.
Gratitude. What does that have to do with it?
Well, it's all about creating this positive feedback loop. When you feel grateful, your brain releases those feel-good hormones like oxytocin and dopamine, and those hormones actually reduce stress hormones. And you enforce the neural pathways associated with achieving your goals.
It's a win-win. It's incredible how science and mindfulness can work together to create real change. Speaking of change, I'm curious about this whole concept of intuition. Some people might dismiss it as just a gut feeling, but is there actual science behind it?
Absolutely. Intuition is often misunderstood, but it has a very real scientific basis. It all comes down to something called Hebbian learning, which essentially means neurons that fire together wire together. So the more you engage with a particular thought pattern or experience, the stronger those connections become in your brain.
So intuition is like having a well-worn path in your brain
Uh-huh.
that you can easily access. It's not just random. It's based on your past experiences and knowledge.
Right. But there's another fascinating element at play here: your gut. It's intricately connected to your brain through the vagus nerve and stores a vast amount of subconscious information.
Wait, so our gut actually plays a role in intuition? I thought it was all in our heads.
It's more like a brain-gut connection. That gut feeling you get is actually your brain tapping into this vast reservoir of subconscious knowledge and wisdom that's stored in your gut.
That's wild. So how can we develop our intuition and learn to trust those gut feelings?
Well, Dr. Swart-Bieber suggests journaling and tracking decisions made based on intuition. This helps you become more aware of those subtle signals and see how they play out in your life. She even shares her own experience using journaling to hone her intuition, which led to better decisions and a greater sense of clarity. It's a practice anyone can benefit from.
Okay, so we've covered neuroplasticity, manifestation, and intuition. Are there any other key ingredients to rewiring for abundance? What about the things that can hold us back?
That's a great question. One of the biggest obstacles to achieving our goals and living a truly abundant life is stress. Chronic stress is a silent killer, not just of our dreams, but also of our brain cells.
Stress kills brain cells.
When your cortisol levels, that's the stress hormone, stay elevated for long periods, it weakens your immune system, leads to weight gain, especially around the belly, and increases your risk of heart disease. Definitely not something to take lightly.
Wow. So stress is not just bad for our mental health. It's impacted our physical health and our brain function. So how does that tie into rewiring for abundance?
Well, chronic stress puts your brain into what Dr. Swart-Bieber calls low power mode. It impairs your creativity, your problem-solving abilities, and even your emotional regulation. And those are all essential functions for achieving your goals and manifesting the life you desire.
It's like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of rocks. Stress weighs you down.
And here's something that might surprise you. Stress can be contagious.
Contagious, like a cold.
Well, not literally, but cortisol, that stress hormone, can actually be released through sweat.
Get out of here.
So being around stressed out people can actually increase your own stress levels.
Wow, that's crazy. So it's like secondhand stress? Is there a scientific term for that?
It's called social contagion. Dr. Swart Bieber explains that a leader's stress level can disproportionately affect others, just like a silverback gorilla's stress impacts the whole troop.
So if you're constantly surrounded by stressed out people, it's going to have a negative impact on your own well-being. It makes you wonder how much of our stress is actually our own and how much we're absorbing from others.
That's a great point, and it highlights the importance of being mindful of our social circles and surrounding ourselves with positive influences. You know that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's actual neuroscience behind that.
So social contagion means that being around people who exhibit certain behaviors can influence what we perceive as normal and acceptable. And that can literally shape our choices and even our mindset. That's both fascinating and a little scary.
It definitely underscores the power of our social environment, but the good news is we have the power to choose who we spend our time with and to cultivate relationships that support our well-being and our goals.
That's so insightful. I'm starting to see how everything connects, from the power of our brains to the impact of our environment and the importance of aligning our actions with our deepest desires. It's really about taking control of our lives and creating the reality we want.
That's exactly it. And Dr. Swart Bieber emphasizes that change is possible. Anyone can change at any age and stage of life.
That's encouraging, but I'm guessing it's not always easy.
What are some of the biggest barriers to change?
Well, the biggest barrier to change is often not truly wanting to. It's not enough to desire change on a superficial level. It has to align with your deepest values. That makes sense. If your heart isn't truly in it, it's going to be hard to make any lasting changes.
Exactly. Dr. Swart Bieber shares a great example of a banker dad who struggled to find time for exercise. It wasn't until he connected exercise with his core value of being a good father that he found the motivation he needed.
So he realized that prioritizing his health would allow him to live longer and be there for his son. That's a powerful way to reframe the goal and connect it to something truly meaningful.
It's about finding that deeper why. When your goals are aligned with your core values, it unlocks a whole new level of motivation. And it makes change not only possible, but sustainable.
That's so inspiring. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have. We've explored the incredible power of our brains, the science behind manifestation and intuition, and the impact of stress in our social environment. It's clear that we have more control over our lives and our reality than we might realize.
It's all about understanding how our brains work and using that knowledge to create the life we want. I've been thinking a lot about my own social circle and the energy I'm surrounded by.
Yeah, that's such a crucial aspect of personal growth and well-being, and it often gets overlooked. You know, we tend to focus so much on individual effort, but our environment plays a huge role in shaping our thoughts, our behaviors, and even our beliefs.
Yeah, you mentioned social contagion and how being around stressed out people can actually increase our own stress levels. But what about the flip side? Can being around positive, supportive people actually boost our well-being?
Absolutely. It's like the opposite of social contagion. When we surround ourselves with people who are optimistic, resilient, and supportive, their energy can actually rub off on us. Their positive outlook can influence our own perceptions and help us navigate challenges with more grace and ease.
So it's like we're absorbing their good vibes.
In a way, yes. You see, our brains are actually wired to mirror the behaviors and emotions of those around us. It's a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors adapt and thrive in social groups. And this mirroring effect works both ways, for better or for worse.
Wow, so choosing our social circle wisely is like choosing the soundtrack to our lives. We want to surround ourselves with people who uplift us and help us grow.
That's a great analogy. And it's not just about feeling good either. Being in a positive social environment can have real, tangible benefits for our health and well-being.
Really? Like what?
Well, studies have shown that people with strong social connections tend to have lower blood pressure, stronger immune systems, and even a reduced risk of depression and anxiety. It's like having a built-in support system that helps us buffer the stresses of life.
That makes sense. When you feel loved and supported, you're more likely to take care of yourself and make choices that promote well-being.
Exactly. And on the flip side, social isolation and loneliness can have some pretty detrimental effects on our health, both mentally and physically. It's actually been linked to an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, and even dementia.
Wow, I had no idea the impact was that significant. It really underscores the importance of nurturing our relationships
Yeah.
and building a strong social support network.
Absolutely. And remember, it's not just about quantity, it's about quality. Surrounding yourself with even a few genuinely supportive and positive people can make a world of difference.
So this whole idea of social contagion and the impact of our social circles is all connected to neuroplasticity, right?
Yeah.
Our brains are constantly being shaped by the people and experiences we surround ourselves with.
Precisely. Every interaction, every conversation, every shared experience leaves a mark on our neural pathways. It's a constant process of rewiring and reshaping. And the amazing thing is, we actually have the power to influence this process. We can choose the inputs that shape our brains.
It's empowering to think that we're not just passive recipients of our environment. We can actively choose the people and experiences that will help us grow and thrive.
And that leads us to another powerful message from Dr. Swart Bieber. The message that change is possible. No matter where you are in life, no matter what challenges you've faced, you have the capacity to change and create a more fulfilling reality.
That's such a hopeful message, but I think a lot of people struggle with change. It can feel so daunting, even overwhelming. Why is it so hard to break old patterns and create new habits?
Well, there are a few reasons why change can be difficult. One is that our brains are wired for efficiency. They love to create shortcuts and automate behaviors. So when we've been doing something the same way for a long time, those neural pathways become deeply ingrained. And it takes effort to create new pathways and break free from those old habits.
So it's like we're stuck in a rut, and our brain prefers to stay there, even if it's not serving us anymore.
That's one way to think about it. But here's the thing. Our brains are also incredibly adaptable. With conscious effort and consistent practice, we can create those new neural pathways and make lasting changes. It's not easy, but it's definitely possible.
So what's the secret sauce for creating lasting change? What are some practical tips for breaking free from those old patterns and rewiring for abundance?
Well, one key is to start small. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. Choose one or two specific areas you want to focus on and break those down into manageable steps. It's like training for a marathon. You don't start by running 26 miles. You gradually increase your distance and intensity over time.
It's about building momentum and celebrating those small victories along the way.
Exactly. And another crucial element is to connect your desired changes with your core values.
Oh yeah, we talked about this earlier. With the example of the banker dad who connected exercise with his value of being a good father. It's about finding that deeper why that fuels your motivation.
Right. When your actions are aligned with your values, it gives them more meaning and purpose. It's no longer just about willpower. It's about living in integrity with who you are at your core.
That's such a powerful insight. It's not just about changing our behaviors. It's about aligning our actions with our deepest beliefs and aspirations.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that change is an ongoing process, not a destination. There will be setbacks, there will be challenges. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent and compassionate with yourself along the way.
So self-compassion is key. We need to be kind to ourselves, especially when we stumble or fall short of our expectations.
Absolutely. And it's also important to celebrate our successes, no matter how small they may seem. Every step forward, every positive choice we make is worth acknowledging and celebrating.
It's about building that positive momentum and reinforcing those new neural pathways we're creating. It sounds like a fascinating journey,
Yeah.
but it also requires effort and commitment.
It definitely does. But the rewards are worth it. When we rewire our brains for abundance, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities. We become more resilient, more creative, and more capable of achieving our dreams.
That's an inspiring vision. It makes me wonder what other amazing things our brains are capable of if we just tap into their full potential.
That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. It's a lifelong process of discovery and growth. And the more we learn about our brains, the more we realize just how powerful and adaptable they truly are.
I'm feeling so inspired and motivated right now. It's like a whole new world has opened up.
That's the power of knowledge and understanding. When we know how our brains work, we can start to harness their incredible potential to create the lives we desire. And that's what rewiring for abundance is all about. I want to kind of delve into some of the more practical aspects of rewiring for abundance. We've talked a lot about the science and the principles, but how do we actually put this knowledge into action?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. What are some tangible steps we can take to start rewiring our brains for abundance like right now today?
Okay, well, one of the most powerful tools we have is visualization. We touched on this a bit earlier with the action boards. But visualization can be used for so much more than just setting goals. It's a way to literally reprogram our subconscious minds and create new neural pathways that support our desired outcomes.
So it's not just about daydreaming. It's about using our imagination, but in a very deliberate and intentional way.
Exactly. When we visualize something vividly, our brains actually interpret it as a real experience. That's why athletes use visualization to improve their performance. By repeatedly imagining themselves performing flawlessly, they're actually strengthening the neural pathways that control those movements.
It's like creating a mental blueprint for success. Our brains don't know the difference between what's real and what we vividly imagine.
That's right. And the more we engage in positive visualizations, the more we reinforce those neural pathways and make it more likely that we'll actually achieve those outcomes in real life.
Okay, but is there any scientific evidence to support this? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, there's a growing body of research that shows visualization can have a profound impact on our brains and our behavior. Studies have shown that visualization can reduce stress, improve focus, boost confidence, and even enhance physical healing. It's a powerful tool that's often underestimated.
So I'm seeing how visualization can play a key role in rewiring for abundance. It's like planting seeds in our subconscious minds and then nurturing those seeds with positive imagery and emotions.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And just like gardening, it takes time and consistent effort to see results. It's not about visualizing something once and then expecting it to magically appear. It's about creating a daily practice of visualizing our desired outcomes with as much detail and emotion as possible.
So consistency is key. Just like anything else we want to master, we need to practice regularly to see real progress.
Absolutely. And here's another tip to make visualization even more effective. Engage all your senses. Don't just see yourself achieving your goal, but also hear the sounds, smell, the aromas, feel the sensations. The more immersive you can make the experience, the more powerful it will be.
It's like creating a virtual reality experience in our minds. I'm definitely going to start incorporating this into my daily routine.
I encourage you to. It's one of the simplest yet most effective ways to rewire your brain for abundance.
So what are some other practical tips for putting this knowledge into action? I'm feeling inspired and ready to make some changes.
Well, one of the most important things is to become aware of your self-talk. The way we talk to ourselves has a profound impact on our beliefs, our emotions, and our behaviors. If we're constantly putting ourselves down or focusing on our limitations, we're actually reinforcing those negative neural pathways and making it harder to achieve our goals.
So that's like having this negative inner critic that's constantly sabotaging our efforts.
Exactly. But the good news is we can retrain that inner critic. We can choose to focus on our strengths, celebrate our successes, and speak to ourselves with kindness and encouragement. It takes practice, but it's worth the effort.
It's like replacing a negative soundtrack with a more positive and uplifting one.
I love that analogy. And it's not just about what we say to ourselves. It's also about what we choose to focus on. Our brains are wired to notice what we're looking for. If we're constantly looking for problems or things to worry about, we'll find them.
So if we want to rewire for abundance, we need to train our brains to focus on the positive.
Precisely. It's about shifting our perspective and choosing to see the world through a lens of possibility and opportunity. And it's not about denying the negative. It's about acknowledging it and then choosing to focus on what we can control and what we can create.
So it's about becoming more intentional with our thoughts and our attention.
Exactly. And it's not always easy. Our brains have a negativity bias, which means we're naturally inclined to focus on the negative. It's a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors stay safe from threats. But in today's world, that negativity bias can often work against us.
So we have to consciously override that negativity bias.
Yeah.
And train our brains to see the good.
Right. And it's not about being Pollyannish or ignoring the challenges in life. It's about acknowledging the challenges and then choosing to focus on solutions, on possibilities, on what we can learn and grow from.
It's about reframing our perspective and choosing to see the world through a more optimistic lens.
Exactly.
That's a powerful shift in mindset that can have a ripple effect on all areas of our lives. It's about becoming more aware of our thoughts, choosing our words carefully, and focusing our attention on what we want to create.
And remember, change takes time. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate your progress. And don't be afraid to ask for support along the way. Surround yourself with people who believe in you and who inspire you to be your best self.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of the power of my brain and how I can use that power to create a more abundant and fulfilling life.
It's been a joy sharing this journey with you. And remember, the real work begins now. Take what you've learned and start applying it to your own life. Experiment, explore, and most importantly, believe in yourself and your ability to create the reality you desire.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And all of you listening out there, remember, the power to rewire your brain for abundance lies within you. It's time to tap into that power and start creating the life of your dreams.